of Northampton and Florence. I'm Ed Olmsted. I'm the president of the congregation, and I'm also a member of the Climate Action Group and the transition team. Thank you to everyone in the Great Hall and at home who is helping this morning. If you're new or returning after a time away, you are especially welcome. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card. It's a blue card that's in the pews. Oh, there we go, thank you. And that'll help us to put it in the offering plate later in the service, and we'll be able to, okay, I've lost my place. We'll get back.
Start right there.
Okay, there is also an online version that you'll find through the link in the chat. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religions, beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that we in Northampton inhabit unceded lands of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we also affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. If you're on Zoom, we ask that you please keep your videos off, except during the greeting, in order to help the technology work as smoothly as possible. And if you're in the Great Hall, thank you for wearing a mask. Most of our announcements are in the Sunday Times bulletin that comes via emails on Friday. I do want to remind you about gathering conversations next Sunday. After the service here in the Great Hall and on Zoom, you can drive or bike to Arcadia's Sanctuary in East Hampton for a light lunch and conversation with a small group. Childcare will be provided, and everyone is welcome, including people who come for the first time next week. You can also join a conversation via Zoom. And now we will begin our service.
In a world that feeds on moral outrage, we are here to cultivate moral courage. In a time that prizes picking sides, we gather to draw a wider circle. And in a culture that teaches us to get for what we give and to ask what's in it for me, we come to practice generosity and to remember we're all in this together. In the midst of life's struggles, we choose to sing, to give thanks, to laugh together, to be keepers of beauty, to offer a place of belonging for all who come in gladness and in sorrow and pain, to resist the push to the next moment and the next, and instead to slow down and breathe more freely and feel a part of something greater. And now I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit for our chalice lighting, and we'll remain standing for the first hymn. May the flame we now kindle light the path to our center, back to that place of belonging to what is true, to what is deepest within, and to what knows us even before we know ourselves. Our story this morning, does anybody know this story? It's called Guji Guji. Anybody know this story? Oh, a few people do. And it's by Chi-Wan Shen. You can go to the next picture, Lori. Next one. An egg was rolling on the ground. It rolled through the trees, it rolled across the meadow, it rolled all the way down the hill. Mother Duck didn't notice. Oh, finally, it rolled into a duck's nest. But Mother Duck didn't notice. What was she doing? She's reading a book. I didn't notice the duck on the cover before. Soon enough, the eggs began to crack. The first duckling to hatch had blue spots. Mother Duck called him Crayon. The second duckling had brown stripes. Zebra, Mother Duck decided. The third duckling was yellow, and Mother Duck named her Moonlight. A rather odd-looking duckling hatched from the fourth egg. Guji Guji, he said, and that became his name. Mother Duck taught the 4 ducklings how to waddle, how to swim, and how to dive. And Guji Guji always learned more quickly than the others. He was bigger and stronger, too. But no matter how quick they were or what they looked like, Mother Duck loved her ducklings all the same. Then one terrible day, 3 crocodiles came out of the lake. They looked a lot like Googie Googie. The crocodiles were smiling, and when they laughed with their mouths wide open, the whole world could see their big pointed teeth. The 3 crocodiles saw Googie Googie, and they smiled some more. Look at that ridiculous crocodile. He's walking like a duck. Googie Googie heard them. I am not walking like a duck. I am a duck, he explained. The crocodiles laughed. Look at you. No feathers, no beak, no webbed feet. What you have is blue-gray skin, sharp claws, pointed teeth, and the smell of bad crocodile. You are just like us. The first crocodile said, your blue-gray body lets you hide underwater without being seen, so you can get close to fat, delicious ducks. The second crocodile said, big, sharp claws help you hold fat, delicious ducks tightly so they don't get away. And the third crocodile said, pointed teeth are necessary so you can chew fat, delicious ducks. Yum. The crocodiles grinned. We know you live with the ducks. Take them to the bridge tomorrow and practice diving, and we'll wade underneath with our mouths open. Why would I do that? Googie Googie asked. Why should I listen to you? Because we're all crocodiles, and crocodiles help each other. They grinned again and vanished into the grass. Googie Googie felt terrible. He sat by the lake to think, is it true? Am I a bad crocodile? He looked down into the lake and made a fierce face. Then he laughed. He looked ridiculous. I'm not a crocodile. Of course, I'm not really a duck either. But those crocodiles are nasty, and they want to eat my family. I have to think of a way to stop them. So he thought, and he came up with a good idea. He went home happy. That night, the 3 crocodiles sharpened their pointed teeth, all the while thinking of the fat, delicious ducks. They were ready for their feast. That's what beavers do. The next day, Googie Googie did exactly as he'd been told. He took the flock of ducks to the bridge to practice diving. The crocodiles were waiting for the ducks underneath the bridge. But it wasn't fat, delicious ducks that dropped from the bridge. It was 3 big rocks. The crocodiles bit down. Crack went their pointed teeth. The 3 crocodiles ran as fast as they could, and in barely a minute, they were nowhere to be seen. Googie Googie had saved all the ducks. He was the duck hero of the day. That night, all the ducks danced and celebrated. And Googie Googie continued to live with Mother Duck, with Crayon and Zebra and Moonlight. And every day he became a stronger and happier crocoduck. And if you look at the, I don't know if you catch this, but yeah, if you look at the shadow, he looks like a duck. So you can think about that. And please rise now in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 361. 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. now it's time for our greeting. You can stand up again if you're in the hall and turn around and wave to the people in the back. Wave to the people on Zoom. We have 43 screens. That's probably 50 people who are with us this morning on screen. Who's here? Rick, it's good to see you. Hear you later. Terry, Ginny. Turn off this. Who else? And I hope you're all enjoying the organ for the first time today. Yay! How does it sound on Zoom? Oh, great, 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 great. Patty, Larry, good to see you. Melissa, Alan, good to see you. Wally and Paula, haven't seen you for a while. Great to see you. Claire, Elaine, Lucy, Teresa, Kirby. Hello, Chris. Who else is there? Sally Weiss, Sally Lawton, Sally, Laura, good to see you. David, Eleanor, Jean, John Campbell, Nancy, Catherine, Tori, good to see you. Ellen, hooray! Oh, Ellen, I'm so glad you're there. Robin, Beth and Bill, wonderful to see you all. Wonderful to have you all. All right. Now it's going to be time to sing out everyone who is going to their first official day of the 2022-2023 Religious Education Program. And we will, yay! We're going to have a great time, and we're going to sing you out. That's how we do it. So when the song starts, all the kids get to go. And if somebody maybe wants to lead them out, who can lead them out? Who's done it before? Xander, where are you? All right, let's go. Oh, Betsy. Eva. Now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Well, not perfect, because you're tall.
I am
and I'm
kind of
short.
short.
There you go.
All right. Now that many of us are back in the building, you might be wondering why USNF has all gender bathrooms. On nearly every continent and for all of recorded history, thriving cultures have recognized, revered, and integrated more than two genders. Having only a women's and a men's room left a lot of people out. USNF has all gender bathrooms to ensure that everyone can use their bathrooms safely, regardless of their gender identity. If your gender identity aligns with your sex assigned at birth, that is considered cisgender. If your gender identity differs from your sex assigned at birth, that is considered to fall under the umbrella term transgender. There are also people who identify as agender or genderless. If you're not sure how a given person identifies, you can ask them what their pronouns are and share your own. If you want to learn more about gender, you can come check out my Gender 101 workshop with Jessica on October 2nd from 11:15 to 12:30 p.m. after the service.
Thank you, Collie. Collie Williams is our Youth and Young Adults Program Coordinator, and they're going to be speaking again later in the service. The question, who am I, inevitably leads to a deeper one. Whose am I? And as this is Guji Guji in the Crocoduck in our story discovered this. Whose was he? Douglas Steer goes on to say, it's a deeper question because there is no identity outside of relationship. You cannot be a person by yourself. To ask, whose am I, is to extend the question far beyond the little self-absorbed self and wonder, who needs you? Who loves you? To whom are you accountable? And to whom do you answer? Whose life is altered by your choices? With whose life is your own all bound up? Inextricably, in obvious or invisible ways. So as I said, Collie Williams has just started their second year with us as the leader of our youth and young adult programs, which we have combined with the programs in Amherst. We did that last year. And Dave Reutman is a member of the congregation and the choir and one of the co-chairs of our USNF The Vote team. Collie and Dave are going to share reflections this morning on the question, whose am I? And Dave is going to go first.
Thank you, Janet. And before I begin, I want to just notice how many people here who look like you're younger than me. And it's a real privilege because I don't get a chance to be with younger people that much. And I look forward to meeting some of you afterwards. Okay, so whose am I to be a citizen? I see myself as belonging in many ways, as a member of my family, USNF The Vote, other political groups, our USNF community, my singing and friendship groups, my neighborhood, the towns of Florence and Northampton, the state of Massachusetts, and the biosphere of planet Earth with all its living beings, just to name a few. I often take action with these relationships in mind. But some of these relationships are easier to connect to and to feel deeply. So Janet asked me to talk today about belonging to a democracy. Oh, I should go. Belonging to a democracy. Because what does that mean, belonging to a democracy? So here's what came up for me as I thought about it. In 1965, I was a war resistor. As my loathing for our actions in Vietnam grew, so did my loathing for the word citizen and the word patriot. In one of his songs, Bob Dylan begins, "We carried you in our arms on Independence Day," and then he goes on to say, "Tears of rage, tears of grief, why must I always be the thief?" I don't know what Dylan meant, but I do know what that song means to me. I have often felt like a thief, trying to steal back the word citizen and the word patriot for myself, because I felt they had been stolen from me. I came to believe that I had no rightful claim to call myself a citizen or a patriot. Well, these days, I'm the same person I was as a war resistor, but I've also changed. I've changed a lot. I've lived in many parts of the country, worked in rural areas and the South Bronx, in corporate America, in Head Start, in warehouses, sawmills, management meeting rooms, and on and on. Throughout, I've soaked up a sense of what being an American means to many people. And one of the journeys I've been on is to reclaim for myself the goodness in those words, patriot and citizen. And I have come to reclaim that belonging. Here comes the good stuff. Shortly before he died, John Lewis wrote, "While my time here has come to an end, I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me." So he wrote this before he died, and then it was published in the New York Times. "You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story. When you used your power to make a difference in our society. Around the country, you set aside race, class, age, language to demand respect for human dignity. I think John Lewis was talking about belonging to a democracy. When I hear his words, I feel pride stirring in me. That great American story he refers to, and its next chapter. But national pride also scares me. I know how much evil has been done in our country's name, and I worry about tribalism and blind loyalty. And that word citizen, what baggage it carries. So much harm has come from the desire to make citizenship an exclusive club to keep people out rather than invite them in. So sometimes it feels good to vent my frustration and anger that we haven't made more progress than we actually have. My frustration and anger when I see blatant hypocrisy and false exceptionalism running rampant, while entrenched inequality and constant injustice that ruins people's lives, persists. And then I return to loathing those words, citizen and patriot. But then I ask, what's my goal? Is it to feel good or to make progress towards the beloved community? So I've come to believe that we are at our best, and this is the hard part, we're at our best when we accept who we are as a species in this moment. Even as, along with John Lennon, we imagine what it could be like if we freed ourselves from the concepts of God and country. So for me, that means accepting that I do belong to my country, and that our country means a lot to many Americans. That acceptance of where we are right now as a species and as a country helps me accept my pride and try to use it for good. In his 1961 inaugural address, I remember hearing, I actually heard it, I saw it on TV. I remember hearing John F. Kennedy say, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." But I would argue, Mr. Kennedy, we should ask both so that we understand our relationship with our nation as reciprocal. It's not a one-way street. At a practical level, asking what my country can do for me and what can I do for my country, asking both, requires first and foremost to pay attention to the actions government officials take and hold them accountable every day. Building citizen-based coalitions to participate in governing. Coalitions like the National UU the Vote, the Movement Voter Project, Braver Angels, those are three that I happen to belong to. Belonging can seem like hard work, but I see many of you, and folks on Zoom who I can't see, but I know you're there, doing this hard work all the time. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank everyone who comes to USNF The Vote events, fills out postcards, makes phone calls, and supports organizations like the Movement Voter Project, everyone who works in the hundreds of ways you all do to build a just and compassionate community. I'm very grateful to belong here. And here's a postscript brief. Long ago, I learned in an anthropology class that all human societies share the feature of reciprocity, that people do things for others while they expect others to do things for them. I can't help but believe that's in our fundamental nature, not only as humans, but as primates. Paying attention to this reciprocal belonging to each other in all our relationships, at all levels, I think that makes for a good and healthy life for each of us and for all of us.
Thank you, Dave. And now it's time to have our offering and our offertory music. We share our offering every Sunday, 50% with organizations outside our walls, and the other half goes to support our operating budget. You can put a donation in the plates as they go along, and if you have a blue card, if you happen to be here for the first time and would like to get on our contact list, you can put the blue card in the plate also. You can also, if you're online, you can make a donation online. All of our gifts are wonderfully, generously offered and gratefully received. Now Rick King has something to share.
Thanks, Janet. Good morning. I'm Rick King. I'm a newer member of the Unitarian Society, and I'm honored to serve on our board of trustees. I started attending USNF through weekly Zoom services in the fall of 2020, and right away joined a small group circle, which provided a wonderful welcome and allowed me to develop a deeper connection to USNF and the 5 or 6 other members of the group. I participated again last fall, and this fall I'll join my 3rd group. These once a month, 2-hour groups provide an opportunity for spiritual exploration with a thought-provoking topic each month. The theme for this year is Peace Within the Storm. The groups are designed to give participants a chance to speak from their own experience and to listen deeply to the stories of others. The groups will start in October and require a commitment to meet once a month through June. One of the groups will remain on Zoom and the others will start on Zoom and move to in-person in the facilitator's home if possible. Check out the flyer in the pews and look for the sign-up form in the quick links section of the USNF website. A lot of people have already signed up and spots remain, in particular in the groups that will meet on Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning. Registration will close next Sunday, September 25th, and registration forms will be dated by when they are submitted. When groups fill, there will be a waiting list. Katie Olmstead coordinates the Small Group Circles program, and there is contact info for Katie on the form should you have questions. Thank you, and many thanks to Katie.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Okay. Hello again, everyone. I'm Kali, and I am the Youth and Young Adult Coordinator at USNF. And these are my remarks on the question of whose am I? Who needs you? Who loves you? To whom are you accountable? To whom do you answer? In reflecting on the questions around whose am I think about the communities I belong to and the friends I choose to spend my time with. I think about the identities we share in common and those that we don't. Most of my friends are white, able-bodied, identify as queer, and are on the cusp between millennials and Gen Z. We frequently talk about astrology and rarely about religion. We're mostly graduates of the 5 colleges who decided to stick around the Valley after graduating. Some of us are in graduate school right now. Despite having graduated from prestigious colleges and universities, most of us make under $20 an hour. We are of a generation that is downwardly mobile compared to our parents, so it's no wonder that we tend to be critical of the American dream and American exceptionalism. Most of us can't recall a time in our lives where our country wasn't at war, and yet we were all well off enough financially to avoid the poverty draft into military service. My political awareness was shaped by growing up during the wars on Iraq and Afghanistan, and through coming of age during the mass protests of Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, and Standing Rock. I was in high school during the historic passage of marriage equality, and now I fear that I will live through its repeal by an ultra-conservative Supreme Court. As a genderqueer person, I feel a broad loyalty and solidarity towards LGBTQ folks everywhere. I know that our experiences and identities differ widely across race, class, gender, and location, and yet I feel enriched by this difference. In contrast to political calls for unity through sameness, I strive for solidarity through difference. I embrace the fact that Pride started as a riot and feel uneasy at the police and corporate presence at modern Pride events. I feel inspired by Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Romero, the trans women of color who organized the Stonewall riots and fought tirelessly for queer liberation throughout their lives. As an educator and youth group leader, I am accountable to the youth and families who I serve. My hope for the future lies in the current and future generations of youth. The youth who I work with in our congregations inspire me every week. My journey is far from over, and I am certain that there will be many more people and communities who I belong to as I age. In spite of the growing pains, life is full of many miracles, and I try to find something to be grateful for every day. Most of the time, I am able to do this, and for that I am thankful.
Thank you, Kali. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing What Wondrous Love Is This, which is hymn number 18. meditation this morning is an excerpt from a poem called Belonging by UU Minister Karen Herring. A plant tilts toward the light that beckons it skyward, the light that gives strength and bestows beauty. What would the world be like if we all turned our faces to the light that way? If we let ourselves belong to our own longings, if we opened our ears to the voice that says, you, I want you, I need you. Let's take a moment in silence together.
Let me be. And you can be a light that shines on me. You can be a stream that flows through me. You can be a love that grows in me. You can
So what would the world be like if we turned our faces to the light that beckons? If we let ourselves belong to our longings? In 1995, a teacher named Gil Bailey wrote about a meeting he once had with Howard Thurman. He said, "I was asking for advice and talking extensively about what needed to be done in the world. And he interrupted me and said, 'Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive.'" For some of us, for some of you like Dave, working for justice or working for the Earth's future is something that makes you come alive. For some of us, working for justice or the Earth's future is one way of belonging to our longings. What happens when you let yourself belong to your own longings? A longing for a better world, or a longing for rest and respite, or for more laughter in your life, a longing to learn to play an instrument, or to follow a passion for bird watching or old movies. And what happens when you let your children belong to their longings? Some of us were or have been lucky enough to find a career path that arose out of our passions and gifts, a career path that was aligned with our longings. That took me a while. When I first went to work in the business world at age 23, some of you know this, I ran the order department at Lender's Bagels in West Haven, Connecticut, which was then still a family company. Actually, I was the order department. And then I got an assistant after a year or so. I was responsible for taking and processing orders and for keeping track of inventory. And we had freezer warehouses, public freezer warehouses, where we kept stock all over the country. And it was my first real job, and I learned a lot. I learned that I enjoyed developing working relationships with people I would never meet. I learned that I was organized and efficient and good at understanding and improving systems, and I learned that those were skills that people valued. And they were skills that were gifts, absolutely, to be sure, but they weren't passions. Still, it feels good to be good at something. So I left the bagel world once Booker had an income, and I got a degree in management, and then I returned to a business career, mostly in startups and small companies. But I knew all along, and of course I didn't articulate it this way, but I knew I was not letting myself belong to my longings. When I was about 28 or 30, I told friends I would go back to school and do things differently. One day that I would do something more aligned with my real interests and with my heart. And then 25 years later, someone suggested, my minister and now good friend Phyllis suggested that I should become a minister. And for the past 16 years or so, I have belonged to this calling, first as a Unitarian Universalist minister in formation, and then for the past 13 years here in Northampton. Believe it or not, I'm starting my 14th year here. And belonging to this calling into UU ministry creates other relationships for me, other communities of belonging, including a very important one to me, which is that of my ministerial colleagues. So David and Kali and Douglas Steer all told us that belonging is reciprocal, and it's about relationship. Sometimes the essential principles of a relationship are expressed in the language of commitments, of covenant. If you've ever taken marriage vows, marriage is a covenantal relationship. It's a language of expectations and promises made and a good faith effort to follow them despite our failures and our imperfections. We spoke the words that express the covenant between minister and congregation in an installation ceremony here in this hall in 2010 after I'd been here for about 8 months. And the congregation's part of that covenant expressed expectations of me. If you were here then, at that ceremony, you said, Janet, we would have you speak the truth as you see it and honor the truths of others. We would have you guide us in celebrating the wonder and mystery of life in each other. We would have you minister to us with compassion and strength in times of joy and sorrow, hardship and bounty. And we would have you celebrate the highest values and principles of our faith and serve us with love. And you also said, we pledge to remember that the work of the society belongs to us all, and we offer you our hearts and hands in the spirit of hope and mutual support. And on my part, I said, I confirm my commitment to you to try to help us realize our dreams and fulfill our common purposes, and I covenant to walk with you in the spirit of love. I promise to do my utmost to honor your call and your trust. That was our covenant. That is our covenant. And it's good to remember it every once in a while. You know, many congregations have written covenants among their members. This congregation doesn't have a written covenant, but we do have a mission statement. And it says in part that our community is one in which we are supported and challenged on life's journeys. So when we ask the question, whose are we, part of that unwritten covenant may be, I think it is, that part of our support is about belonging, that we covenant each in our own ways to support each other in belonging to our own longings and in belonging to this congregation, to one another. Whose are you? As I hope we've seen this morning, there are many ways to think about this question. So you might want to think about what some of the ways are that you would answer it for yourself. A plant tilts towards the light that beckons it skyward, the light that gives strength and bestows beauty. What would the world be like if we all turned our faces toward the light in this way? What could the world be like? What could we be like for ourselves and for one another? And if you had the view I have of a very beautiful baby named Afton wandering around back there, you'd know why I'm smiling. Please join in body or spirit in singing our final hymn, Guide My Feet, number 348.
May you know and cherish who you are. May you know and cherish whose you are. May you know you can belong here. Go in peace.